I am recording, I believe. Okay, we might make a start considering it's just after 7:30. Can everyone hear me? Yep, awesome. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm in a little bit warmer place today rather than being out at Paddy's, which we ended up being out there last week until 10:30 at night, so it was a long day. I'd like to welcome and thank Adam Damen for coming on tonight. Adam is a lieutenant at Mount Macedon Brigade. He's also in the Technology Services Unit at FFM Vic and does lots of aircraft roles and different roles with IT as well. So thank you very much for Adam for jumping on board tonight, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll bring up my presentation. Yes, as Sarah said, I'm Adam Damen. I'm a member of Mount Macedon Fire Brigade. Also work for Forest Fire Management Victoria and currently work in the radio communications and field technology space. I suppose what I do is I look at a whole range of different field technologies and how we can use those to, I suppose, provide better situational awareness to and from the FireGround. Sarah, you're just going to have to allow me to share my screen.
Apologies. I will...
That's all right. I suppose it's a little bit of a passion of mine. I suppose having lived both ends of the stick, you know, on a crew and also in a number of IMT roles, I suppose the significant change we've seen since Black Saturday and the advancements of technology, especially, you know, I suppose accessibility for mobile data means we're really close to, I suppose, realising the potential of, you know, I suppose, better information to and from our incident grounds. And so tonight I just wanted to take you through a little bit of a, I suppose, a tour of what technology we have available to us now and how we're working to get that out to, I suppose, you guys as volunteers. It's one of our biggest challenges. It's easy to get this stuff out to staff and employees of organisations through our IT policies, but you know, the biggest challenge is how do we get better connection through our volunteer ranks and make sure that we're capturing really good data and we know where it's coming from. So if you've got any questions throughout, happy for you to butt in or just drop something in the chat or put your hand up, and I'm happy to take, like, we'll deviate off topic if we need to. I'm happy to be led by everybody out there in Zoom land as to where we go. But yeah, I've tried to tailor another presentation I do within the agencies more to, I suppose, this audience. So I'll just share my screen and I'll see how we go. All right, can everybody see that?
Looking good.
Okay, cool. Let's just start it. There we go. I've called it Systems for Situational Awareness. Now, the idea of tonight is I'll talk through a range of systems. A lot of these you can access as volunteers. There's some where you might need a specific role to access, but I really want to focus on what you can do and what you can share with your other brigade members to, I suppose, improve your brigade's access to key information to make better decisions and also just stay informed of what's going on. So we'll have a look at all those systems in a bit of detail and how to log in, etc. We'll go through some tools of the trade. So some of the field-based technologies that you're starting to see more and more use of on, you know, large-scale incidents. And I suppose happy to do a bit of EMCOP walkthrough / questions and just talk about where we're heading in general in the next 12 to 18 months. We'll start with agency systems. So I'm not quite sure. CFA haven't really publicised this a lot, but if you go to the Maps Online tab in the members.cfa or what's Brigades Online, CFA actually has an interactive mapping tool to create your own maps. To have a look at that, you just have to use your login that you would use to access Brigades Online or LMS. And effectively, it's got quite a lot of good information and detailed mapping behind it. So boundaries, fire hydrant plug locations, all that kind of stuff, fire stations are all in the system, and it allows you to print reasonably quality and detailed maps. So that's maps online at cfa.vic.gov.au. This is based on the same technology of a number of other mapping applications that are used across the sector. So if you once you figure out one of them, they're pretty much all very similar, just the tools and kind of functions that are there slightly change between them. But yeah, really, I don't know if anyone's seen this before. I can quickly run through it at the end of the session live if you like, just to give you a quick look and at the functions. But yeah, really good. So it's up to date. It's not those PDF maps that they've held on their website for a very long time. But yeah, you can print maps on demand for your brigade area that suit what you're trying to do at the time. And you can draw your own markup on them as well. So that's our CFA Maps Online viewer. EMCOP, everyone familiar with EMCOP? So access that at cop.em.vic.gov.au. That's, I suppose, the state's operational overview, common operating picture, hosted by EMV. Everyone that's a part of an emergency services organisation can register for an account. So you just use your members.cfa.vic.gov.au email. It's a bit quicker. If you don't have one of those or don't want to set one up, you can use your personal email address, but you just have to provide some more information about which brigade you're in. There's a bit more of a validation process in the background just to make sure you are a member of an emergency service organisation. There's two sites. So there's the operational site, which has got all the live data in it, and also has a training site as well, where you can kind of go and play around to your heart's content and learn and understand the system. COP's really good. I've got the picture on the slide here. It's just the desktop. Lots of really handy links to really good information that around weather, situational outlook, the daily briefing, all that kind of stuff, accessible through the desktop dashboard, and then the situation tab on the left hand side. That's the mapping pane where you can see real-time incidents and all the, I suppose, data that's being provided from other agency systems into the COP. So COP is an aggregation tool of multi-systems, so management, SES, telcos, all feed data into COP so that there's a single incidents and regions and the state to have a look at the, I suppose, the same information at the same time, so that there's consistency in operational decision making. But it also allows to do that as well. So you see the same information everyone else is seeing. So it's a really handy tool for when you're sitting around your fire station on those preparedness days, to kind of keep tabs of what's going on. EMAP. So EMAP is the official incident mapping tool. It's accessible with a FFM-Vic FireWeb account. Now, CFA members are eligible to have a FireWeb account with FFM-Vic, so that you can access a whole raft of systems that are multi-agency that are hosted by Forest Fire Management. So there's a self-registration page. You just have to use your members.cfa.vic.gov.au email address to self-register, and that gives you a base level of access once you've been approved by someone within CFA to access. And that gives you access to EMAP. So EMAP has more detail in it than EMCOP does, because it's the tool that mapping officers at incidents use to do that detailed mapping that gets published to COP for other agencies to see. So this is kind of where a lot of raw operational data comes into, is kind of sorted out and curated by the mapping officer and published to EMCOP. Any questions on that so far? And we'll get into a bit more detail into what this all looks like as we go through the slide pack. EM Drive, everyone familiar or anyone heard of EM Drive? So EM Drive's it's the cloud file storage system for emergency management for Victoria. You need an FFmpeg FireWeb account for to access EM Drive, but this is where all our incident information is stored. So our IAPs, regional plans, all the preparedness stuff at that kind of higher level. So, everyone can have access to EM Drive. It's a structured set of folders. It's there to make life and sharing of documentation across incident grounds and multiple divisions and sectors easier. There's a phone app version for it as well, so you can access information off your phone. So we're kind of really at that point where we're enabled to, share IAPs and all kinds of other incident information electronically to people without having to, print off hard copies, or for people to go via, staging areas or those locations. So all this information, if you know where to look for it, is there. So it's all in that kind of, it's in the 30 response area. So there's prevention, preparedness, and response. So most of the key documents of interest are in that response area when we're looking at kind of ongoing operations. So you can find IAP. So if you're going on a strike team, and the next rotation out, you can see what's going on. You can grab that kind of information. It is there and available if you can't get it from anyone that's on the FireGround or already deployed. EM Live. So it's a multi-agency video streaming platform, heavily used this year. Probably it's only 2 years old. We trialed it in 2018-19 on a number of aircraft, and we rolled it out to another 5 or 6 aircraft this year. So there is video streaming now out of 9 aircraft. And a couple of remote piloted aircraft as well. Again, you need the FFmpeg account to access it. We're currently working with CFA on making it easier for people to access this by hopefully allowing you to use the same account you use to log into CFA members or Brigade Online. And we're hoping to get that done in the next 12 to 18 months. So that'll be a huge win for kind of really opening up all these systems and making it easier to
You there, Adam? Right, I think we've lost Adam. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will come back on shortly. While we wait for him to come back on, better make sure that I've got that open. We just had some requests for some people to come on. I am looking at a fire weather session with Kevin Parkin. Also, I got an email today in regards to we've got some funding to do something with this next gen group. So yeah, does anyone want to talk while we're waiting for Adam to come back on? Very quiet tonight. Has anyone used MCOP or EM Live or any of the systems that we've got that we was talking about? Here he is. Hey, Adam. Moving in the house? Welcome back. You're muted.
Sorry about that, everybody. Gotta love technical challenges, even in a like high connected NBN household. I'll just restart. So I was talking about
EM Live.
EM Live. Hang on, get the slides back up. Yeah, so I think really good for situational awareness. Works mobile as well, but the challenge is that the data usage is high. So it's up to 2.5 gigabytes an hour. So don't use it on your personal mobile phone out on the FireGround. Is what is kind of my suggestion, because you'll get bill shock. So really good tool, but yeah, really high bandwidth tool. So good to use at fixed locations where you've got kind of unlimited internet connections or CFAs paying the way, but not necessarily on your personal mobile on the FireGround, unless you've got someone with you with a kind of, allocated device from an agency or something like that. So it's really not designed for personal use. So EM Live, but really handy for, looking at bird's eye view from aircraft working on your job at the moment. And there is some plans to roll it out to some other fixed assets as well, which is doing some work with CFA to look at opportunities for some other vehicle types that might get cameras on them in the future. So that's a kind of quick wrap up of agency systems that are that all the data feeds into.
You're not sharing your screen at the moment, Adam.
Oh, aren't I? Ooh. Hang on, where's my Zoom going? Cool, hang on. I'll just fix that up. Share, done. Is that better?
Mm-hmm. Much better.
Hey, we're back. All right. Awesome. All right, restart the slideshow. All right, cool. So that's kind of all the key, that's the overview of all the key systems that are kind of in play at the moment across forest fire management and CFA. And there's a lot of work going on to make these systems a lot more accessible to the broader CFA membership. So a lot of these things are hidden in the background. They're heavily used at the IMT region and state level, but we haven't really got to that kind of, I suppose, golden opportunity of rolling this right down to brigade level. And that's a piece of work that we're endeavouring to work on in partnership with CFA over the next 12 to 18 months, is really boost that access to brigades. Some of the tools of the trade that feed data into the systems now, I just wanted to touch on and talk about that. So if you've got any questions as we go, feel free to chime in. This is the stack. So we have a lot of technology and we use it at varying levels across, I suppose, an incident ground. So a lot of our data comes in from operational firefighters, through radios, resource tracking, location, their ability to mark up maps, record stuff with GPSs, all that kind of stuff. But we also use quite a lot of, I suppose, data that we gather from the air above the fire or incident. So, air attack supervisors, very similar to the ground, have that bird's eye view, more photos, their ability to map now using FireMapper, which is slowly replacing CFA PFIT kits, streaming video, as well as, looking at where those aircraft are operating, and that moves right up into remote sensing with infrared line scan, satellite hotspots from MODIS and Himawari 8, which is the Japanese weather satellite the Bureau of Meteorology use for their weather stuff. So it has hotspot detection and also gives us 10-minute imagery in color and infrared. So we have access to lots of really good data now around our incidents to paint a picture of what's going on in a larger scale than we've ever had before. And then we've got the MX10 AIG platform as well, which gives us high definition streaming, really detailed mapping capability, and I suppose that kind of tactical air to ground component as well, where we can work directly with ground crew to guide them into areas where the camera's telling us we need to get crew to. The other thing I wanted to touch on, everyone familiar with Avenza PDFs and QR codes? You will see this more and more now at incidents as we move forward. You know, incident action plans and most incident maps this year down in Gippsland had QR codes on them, really for the benefit of using Avenza PDF maps on devices. So, you know, being able to have a digital copy of your map on your phone or your tablet, you know, it's complementary to a paper map. It's never going to fully replace it, just because, you know, if your phone goes flat, you kind of don't have the information you need, but it means you can put annotations and markup and share that more readily. So the way we've architected, I suppose, all our map packs and QR codes, it's designed so we don't have to pay for Avenza licensing. So the unlicensed version of Avenza that you can download out of the App Store allows you to hold 3 maps for free. If you have the licensed copy, you can hold, you know, unlimited maps. So one of the things we've thought of is, well, we don't want everyone forking out for a $30 map Avenza map license. You know, the agencies are also limited in how many licenses they can manage and hand out. So the easiest way is to make maps more easily available via QR codes. They just need to be in Wi-Fi range or on your mobile network, and you can just quickly download the map you need, get it in your phone, and kind of have that more accurate mapping capability in the palm of your hand, or the IAP is a digital copy as well on your device that you can open up with Adobe. So you'll see this is kind of heading more and more in this QR code direction as we try to, I suppose, print less plans. It means we can disseminate them easier to multiple locations instead of having to wait for the printed plan to be distributed from the IMT via road or air to you know, other staging areas and operation locations. We can kind of share this more rapidly now, and we're doing a lot of work in improving these systems to make them easier for people to set up their QR codes and put them on maps and I suppose other documentation that firefighters need, so IAPs, weather documents, all that kind of stuff. And also just being able to use the same QR code every day, so you just get the latest version of the document, so you don't have to find a current QR code. So once you've got them, you've got the set for the fire. So that's been a really big change, I suppose, as we kind of move into that more digital realm than previous fire seasons, and that will continue to grow. Resource and aircraft tracking. So I assume everyone's aware CFA now track resources over their radio network, as well as forest fire management. So we track our trucks, you know, aircraft, FCVs, all our vehicles when they're on the radio network. This gives, you know, us the ability to have better situational awareness of where our resources are versus where we need our resources to be. And this goes right down to brigade level. So, you know, having access to COP means you can see where your appliances are in your brigade, group area, region and district, and you can see where they are in real time. So, you know, I've got, it's available on, you know, on your dispatch channels, incident management channels and FireGround channels. And for forest fire management, it's on our trunked radio network, which is the same, I suppose, equivalent of dispatch, and also on our incident channel network. But at the moment, forest fire management can't track their vehicles at the FireGround level. It's a piece of work that's going on at the moment to kind of get parity between CFA and FFMVIC in that capability. But yeah, really, I suppose the last 12 months has really seen this kind of come to life now that both agencies have the ability to track their vehicles.
Adam, can I just put in a couple of things there?
Yeah.
So really useful in a couple of instances we used it with. When you've got a lightning strike or you get sent to a fire that you're not really sure where it is, having a look at the aircraft and seeing where the aircraft are give you a really good idea of where the fire actually is. We also once had a incident down our end of the world where we were sitting back at the station going, exactly where is it? Being able to look up where our truck was, you go, oh, so it's right there. It's not over here. And the other use that was really good for over the fire season is some of the urban brigades not knowing where their truck was. You can actually search for it and you could see exactly where your truck was and once it logged in the system. So I know at one stage we had someone ring up and go, oh, do you know where this truck is? And I logged in, checked it up and gone, well, it last logged into the system at this time at this location. So it was a really good thing for like some of the brigades that sent their vehicles away to actually keep track of where they were at the
where they got to.
Yeah.
And also, it's also handy for crew changeovers after that kind of initial attack phase. If you want to do crew changeover on the FireGround or stuff like that, you can kind of see where your truck is. So we've used it for that a couple of times down our neck of the woods. It's also handy to work out, as Sarah was saying, where the incident actually is versus where it was reported. I think there are some limitations with it, and they're not, I suppose, they're not widely communicated. So CFA resources on the dispatch channel. So when you're on a Vic fire, it's time and distance based tracking. So the radio phones in it or sends its position based on time intervals or how far it's moving. So every couple hundred meters to a kilometer, depending on your speed, it will send its location. So you'll see that you've got more detail when the truck's sitting on Vic fire. When you go onto a command channel, it only updates when you talk. So you've got to push when you're talking, the radio sending its position as part of that voice information going out. So it's snuck into your voice traffic, and same on the FireGround. And with the FireGround, you need an FCV or an FOV with a modem and the radio on the same channel that you're talking on to receive it and send that data on. So you'll see if you start using this and looking and using it on weekends, you'll see that if the crew goes to a bit of training or something and they go into a FireGround channel and the FCV is back in the station, then you won't see where the crew are anymore. They'll just the trucks will stay stationary even though they're driving around, because the modem is the key to the kind of FireGround comms for the CFA model. So if you don't have that vehicle with a modem in it and it's only FCV, FOVs and some other specialist vehicles that have those modems, then you don't get to see location on FireGround channels. And it only works with vehicle radios, not portables. So portables don't have a GPS in them in CFA.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Just due to the model. So it's just one of those things that didn't come with one. So forest fire management.
I was going to say, I'm sure DMOs may have used the resource tracking as well at some stage. Steve might be able to agree or disagree with that, but I'm sure DMOs may have used them as well.
Yeah, and so forest fire management, so it's very similar. So on the trunking network, it's time and distance. On command, on our incident channel network, it's when you talk, and at the moment we're not tracked on the FireGround, just because we haven't, for two reasons. One, we're still using analog FireGround channels, and we just haven't kind of finished the piece of technology integration to get the FireGround traffic back to somewhere like CFA has. The beauty for forest fire management is that our portables have GPSs in them, so we can track our portables, so we can track a hand crew on a handheld at a fire as well. So we're doing a fair bit of investment in this space along with CFA to kind of improve this, because we see the value in it. So it's quite a valuable tool. It makes our operations safer and more efficient as well, because we can see where our resources are. So it's, ask any resources officer in an IMT what their biggest challenge is, and it's trying to work out how many trucks they've got in that initial kind of first 12 to 24 hour period when they're trying to round everything up, and this makes life a lot easier. So in addition to that, we track our aircraft, and as part of that, we have this aviation event logging data now as well. So we can actually see where aircraft are taking water from, and we can see where they're putting it. So it's a really great way to work out where the fire actually is versus what the map is telling us. So, our mapping officers do a great job at, taking all the data that they can get from, a range of sources, and coming up with a fire perimeter. But that is a point in time, normally most accurate at the end of a shift, start of the, day shift. Normally a lot of work's done overnight to kind of really tidy up and try and get as accurate picture of where the fire has gotten to during the day. And that's getting harder as fires are now running harder and longer at night. We're now under more pressure to, produce better real-time changes in fire perimeter, and we need all the kind of remote sensing and spatial data we can get. So, knowing where trucks are, knowing where aircraft have been working, allows us to rapidly work out that the fire is moving and where it's moving. So you can see in the picture here where you've got all your red drops, they're outside the fire perimeter. So it's you can quite confidently say that the fire has moved and filled in, those couple of areas there where those drops are, because that's where the aircraft are working. So drops are available on EMCOP and EMAP. So you can really get the kind of value add to where the aircraft are and where they're taking water from. And if you want to, I'm sure people use this to work out where aircraft are picking up from too, so you can get good photo opportunities. So if you're in the neighborhood, you can kind of see where the aircraft are working and, look at where they're picking up from. And we use it for replacement water. So there's a lot of reporting that goes behind this now so that we can work with landholders to replace essential water. So, this information makes it a lot easier than, I suppose, previous, years gone by where we've had to try and work out manually where aircraft have taken water from and replace it. So this is what it kind of all looks like when we start putting trails against it, because the time and distance-based reporting is all a bit clunky. It's not as neat as you'd like. I spend a lot of time kind of as part of pre-season training, talking and working with situation planning, intelligence and mapping officers around how can we interpret the kind of mess we get from all the lines. And this is kind of it. So we can kind of really take where I suppose all the work is aircraft, appliances and dozers, etc. And we really can start to build a real-time or near real-time operational picture of how things are going, and if we're kind of succeeding at that initial attack, or if if the fire's moving faster than I suppose the ground crew. So we kind of are able to now gain a lot of information without having to rely on asking more questions of crew on the ground while they're doing the hard yards trying to contain fires. So the more information we can glean from our systems to give us a better idea about how ground crews are going, the less we have to ask, I suppose, what seem silly questions to a lot of people on the FireGround around confirming where things are at when they're in the thick of it. So we spend a lot of time now looking at how we can better interpret all the data we're getting. So here you can see we can kind of sketch the fire area based on where all the aircraft are flying and bombing, and where our tankers and dozers and stuff are. One of the biggest, I suppose, technological advances we've been able to achieve in the last 10 years is, I suppose, mobile applications. And so FireMapper Enterprise is an application that we've started using predominantly in the aircraft area to allow us to gain better field intelligence and directly enter it into systems. So the running joke for a lot of people is that the air observer normally has the best map of the fire that nobody gets to see, because the air observer flies around, they do really detailed mapping, and then they end up back at an airport, and it's not normally close to where the incidents run from, or the ops point or division commander that needs that information. And so, you know, historically, pen and paper maps have been really good, but we haven't been able to get them out of the aircraft to the ground. So, so 2 seasons ago, we deployed 30 of these units into the aviation fleet as a proof of concept, I suppose, to prove the idea that we can integrate and digitize that mapping function that the air observer and air attack supervisor have always done manually, and share that seamlessly back into geospatial systems. And with the ability to take photos and make it easy as possible for our people to share that information back into incident managers and with each other. So if you've got everyone that's running one of these can see all the information that's captured by anybody else. So they're all synced up and able to share. And what I'd like to see happen, you know, hopefully in the next couple of years, and the huge opportunity here is to see this roll out more and more across ground resources to provide better situational awareness and data from the ground back into the system. So we'd have a fully integrated model air ground back into incident management teams. So doing a bit of work in that space. Unfortunately, I suppose that FRV, CFA, I suppose transition is slowing that down. We were hoping to roll the program out to ground observers over this winter, but I suppose with that being up in the air at the moment as to how that looks going forward, that's slowed right down. But there is a piece of work going on to effectively enable, as a first step, ground observers from CFA and also some ground roles within forest fire management to have access to this as well. It is FireMapper Enterprise is different to the FireMapper app that is in the App Store as well. So there's 2 apps in the App Store. So that you can use FireMapper as a standalone application and get the same result, but you just can't share it back into our spatial systems. The enterprise model allows us to provide a unique key that allows the data to effectively seamlessly flow back into EMAP and then onto EMCOP. So it is available in the App Store. It's not expensive, but it is a $30 license to have the kind of private version of it. But it is a good tool. It's heavily used. It's developed by a couple of RFS volunteers out of Sydney, and it's used a lot by other agencies going forward as well. So RFS, Tasmanian Fire Service, it is becoming the tool of choice for kind of field intel for fire operations. It's used for field mapping, image capture, so we can do asset identification and mapping as well. There's 2-way communications, and we can provide updated sectors and fire perimeters and stuff in real time back to users as well. It also allows us to share, so we can create Avenza PDF maps on the unit now, which is a new feature that got launched late this year. So we can actually quickly SMS or email Avenza maps of fires around to other users. So not everyone needs FireMapper, so we can kind of get around that with, you know, kind of wireless sharing to people with Avenza or a quick email or like a kind of Dropbox or that kind of stuff. So our flexibility is getting there, but we've still got a little bit of work to do to make it, I suppose, easier. You need to be quite, I suppose, quite technically capable at the moment to make some of these things work. It's not a kind of Apple iPhone just works environment. Context cam versus via EM drive. So we have the ability now, there's a little app that's made by a guy out of Sale who built this for kind of inspections. So you just download the app. It allows you to have put some banners around your photograph, your name, your role, the lat long of where you were standing and what direction you were looking. And we're able to just drop those now out of the app into EM drive, into a special folder for context cam, and effectively they automatically ingest and pop up on the map with an icon. There's the photo from my phone, and there it is on the map, you know, 1 minute later. And I mean, that's the beauty of where we're heading, is that this information is becoming seamless for, you know, to a lot of places. And the architecture we work to build it is to, you know, make sure that we build stuff so that it's accessible at all levels. And as we continue to work out the barriers to, you know, kind of get all our members connected, all this stuff becomes instantaneously available. So every kind of brick wall we knock down makes it a lot easier for, you know, the systems there ready to go. So photos, so there's a range of other things. So the PFIT kit photos still come in as well. So for ground observers that still use PFIT kits, there's a whole effectively photo section. A lot of this stuff sits within EMAP, and the photos flow through to EMCOP, but not all the data sets flow through. So depending on the operational need, there's a bit of triage that's done so that it's not too confusing for users that are bombarded with a lot of raw data, but the photos go right through, and we're able to, you know, see that. You can expand that to full size and download the photo and the metadata, and see where it was taken on the map. Live video streaming, so effectively you get like a mega wall, so it's like the Channel 7 mega wall of all the camera feeds going on across the state at the same time. You can click on a feed and make it full screen. So so the two AIG platforms are broadcast quality, so they're 720p high definition feeds, as well as the MFB's remote piloted aircraft and our spare unit for contract remote piloted aircraft. And then we have 7 other fixed wing aircraft now that have fixed field of view cameras on them. So you can see there's the little square Bird Dog 384s. It's got a nose mounted camera. It allows us to see what's going on out in the desert as it's flying around looking for fires or firebombing. And some of our other aircraft have too. They have a forward looking and a downward looking camera, so we can kind of get better pictures while they're flying around. And the one in the right hand corner, if you're interested, that's we have one demo version that's on 24 hours a day that sits at my desk looking out the window, just to give us assurance that the system's running, because we always want to make sure that, you know, it's ready to go. So that just runs live so that people can log into the system, check it's working at their end. Otherwise, if there's no cameras on, it's a little bit hard to confirm it's working or not. That's been really good. You know, it really allows us to get a better picture of what's going on at fires. We can look at the smoke column, the, you know, assets in real time, you know, what's the color of the smoke, how fast is things, what's the spotting doing, all that kind of stuff that we've historically had to rely on the radio traffic to describe. You know, a picture paints 1,000 words. You know, a video is, you know, kind of a huge book. But a lot of people struggle with interpreting radio traffic and descriptions over the radio as to what's going on, and either overestimate or underestimate. But having a bit of video now in a similar area really allows people to kind of pull all that information together and, you know, kind of, you know, really relate to what the crews are telling them. So it's really good. It's a really good tool, and we see this. There's a big interest to expand this into, you know, more and more resources, because it's a, you know, single platform. Click on what you want, and you know, it's like video on demand. If there's video at a job, you can see it. So we've tried video technology a number of times, and we've always kind of come unstuck at the agency level around computer access. So this one is web-based. There's no browser plugin required. It's got better resolution. It's got more flexibility. And it was launched, that's an old slide, but it was launched for the 2018-19 season just before Christmas that year. And, you know, we've recorded probably, you know, 500 or 600 hours of video footage of fires since then, and we get lots of requests for it as well. So it's used for training, investigations, case studies, all kinds of stuff. So
and one really good one, sorry Adam, one really good one we watched it for is that we actually had a guy that was an arsonist that was held up outside Now an Hour. Our crews, FFM Vic crews, were talking to him, and we had police coming in, and you actually see the police coming in and swarming this guy and then tackling him to the ground. So I know I got the copies of that to give it to the local police, and they were using it for training as well. So not just fires it's been used on, it was other, and I've put some other instances that we've used it up there, but that was a really good one to be able to access that recording of those police coming in and swarming the guy. And there's a question there from Simon too, Adam.
I'll just see if I can pop them up.
I'm
not seeing questions. Yeah, just read it if you like, Sarah.
How does the aircraft get its live video data back to 4G?
Yes. So yeah, it effectively uses Telstra and Optus 4G networks. So all the video encoders are at least dual SIM. So they have one Telstra, one Optus SIM, or they have with the AIG platform, it actually has 5 SIMs. So it's got 3 Telstra, 2 Optus in each unit. So yeah, it's multi-network bonded modems. So it breaks the video up over all the data streams and reassembles it in under kind of 1 second. So the latency between the time I transmit it and the time it's seen on a computer screen is about 1.5 seconds. It's quite amazing to think about, like that's going over 5 different SIM cards, getting reassembled at a server, pushed to us, and then rebroadcast out to a PC within that 1.5 second type time frame. And we've deliberately set it to 1 second to give us more robustness when we're working at in remote areas. So it can actually do it within 250 milliseconds. It's off-the-shelf broadcast technology. So we're really big on trying not to get stuck in bespoke systems at the moment. So we're trying to buy as much stuff off the shelf. You know, we're not experts in video streaming. There's lots of other organizations and sectors that do that. So we've just kind of picked the best bits from TV broadcast and CCTV and surveillance, and joined it all together and kind of come up with our own system, which you know, is working quite well. And then that kind of, I suppose, Sarah's segue into you know, the video for the arsonist. That kind of gives us the good segue into aerial information gathering. So there's 2 of these helicopters, both based in Melbourne and crewed by CFA and Forest Fire Management Victoria personnel predominantly. They're used for surveillance or perimeter mapping, hotspot detection, asset and identification and mapping, rapid impact assessment, so post the job. So it's a really handy tool for our people to get good situational awareness and rapid access into areas where we might not be able to get ground crew, and start, quantifying work effort and damage and kind of recovery and all that kind of stuff. And we get to capture that all in one pass. So we're recording with a camera, we record on board, we're streaming out, we're grabbing photos, spatial data, perimeters. So it's all done by a 2-person crew plus a pilot on board. So it's a really efficient way for us to kind of get good information out. So there's an IR and a color image. All the points align with the all hazard symbol. So standard symbology, it's not special. There's some line types as well, so you get to see them on the map, and we can rectify the imagery. So this is what it looks like on the map. Is we get the same as the camera. Every spot has a color. So hotspot, you get to click on it, brings up your picture. You can zoom in, you can see what the hotspot is, to the point where you can identify if it's the base of a tree, or it's a stag, or it's a stump in the ground, or it's unknown. So we can kind of really zoom in and get that detail we need. And this can be put into a report for the crews. So for you guys on the truck at the start of a shift, we're seeing it more and more now at smaller events, kind of a level 2 event where, as part of the IAP, they can give sectorized hotspot work packages out, and crews can work to the package instead of having to patrol huge sections of fire. We can really kind of tailor and confirm that there's no work in an area and resource it appropriately. That's what the report looks like. So you get your list of hotspots, and then a long or a easting and northing. So you can plug it into your GPS and you get to tick and flick kind of thing, and a bit of a map of where they all are. So it's a really handy way of, getting everyone home quicker. And that's one of the things we want to see the technology do, is we want to see it get people home quicker. So, if we don't need to be out at a job, then we shouldn't be out there. But the only way we can really, kind of have the confidence that we don't need crews is to use, I suppose, the technology we've got to, kind of give us that level of assurance that, yep, we don't need to have crew on this sector or that part, or we can send everybody home early, or, we won't go back. Because the last thing we want to do is, continue to go back to jobs and deal with hotspots and flare-ups. So, this technology really allows us to kind of work more effectively and efficiently. And we can also do some crude aerial imagery with the camera, so we can actually stretch the photo and fit it to an area. So it's really handy if we don't have other intel over, I suppose, assets and things like that, or we don't have good aerial photography. We can kind of take photos of everything and we can overlay it and create our own maps. Line scan system. So Victoria has run a line scan system since the early 1980s. The National Safety Council used to run the line scan for the state, and then the state owned, or still owns, 2 line scan systems, and currently has a provider that provides us with a line scan service based out of New South Wales. So it's there to do detailed infrared mapping of fires. To really allow us to understand where fire perimeters are, and fire spread overnight, where we don't, in remote areas, and where we don't want to put crew in. And it's huge landscapes, kind of imagery. So 20,000 feet, where the aircraft scanning 12-kilometre wide images at 15 metre pixels, and it can come down lower and get more detailed. So But yeah, really handy for all that mapping and line confirmation that we've seen in Gippsland this year. A lot of that is because of the line scanner. So it's the workhorse that kind of really, after those big run days, or when we don't know what's going on and we haven't got enough resources to get around the thousands of kilometers of fire line, that's what this aircraft thrives at. And here's a bit of a sample of it. So, you've got your red fire, where your fire is in red. So you can kind of map the edge quite easily and see your fire perimeter. I'll just go into a better one. So you get a lot of information out of these pictures as well. So we do, there's a 3-hour interpretation course that's run for mapping officers and intel team. To allow them to kind of get the most out of the data, because this isn't it's not a black and white picture. It's a heat map, so we can look at dryness, temperature, fuel, underlying fuel dryness as well. So where we're going to probably have problems where fire's going to run into a damp water course and we're not going to have as many problems. There's a lot of information in these pictures that can be used by our fire behaviour analysts to help assist in that fire modelling. And then you can overlay those on the map to get an idea of where they are. So, because they're all geo-rectified, so you can quite easily map that perimeter, get it, and work out the hectares and locate that fire. So, really good post-lightning strikes. Used a lot in the desert country for that, to locate fires, to allow crews to go in the next morning. And we also can do colour imagery as well with the scanner. So you might have seen a bit of this. RFS likes to publish this on Facebook a lot around, where's the fire in relation to communities. So this is it's a kind of a false colour image. So it kind of shows what's burning on the ground in a nice kind of easy to understand way. And that's it for the presentation for the slide deck. We're nearly up to an hour. Does anyone have any questions around that? Stop sharing, go back to there. The chat screen, is there anything else in there? No? Yeah, either that or I've overwhelmed everybody. I think the key thing, if you haven't got an EM COP login, go and get an EM COP login. That's probably my biggest takeaway from tonight is, go and sign yourself up, get into EM COP and have a play. Log into the training site. You can't break anything. It's the beauty of it. Go and get a feel for it and have a look at all the useful data and products that are made, at the regional and state level that, help you guys in your brigades, understand readiness, risk, all that kind of stuff. So you can really kind of leverage it, to kind of understand, how you can better prepare on those TFB days and kind of have a good read of the land before the fire starts.
Probably the other one that's useful is get that FireWeb login as well. Go Firefighter app, having the most recent maps on there is really useful as well.
Oh yeah, good idea. I didn't touch on Go Firefighter. Thanks,
yeah.
Sarah.
No, that's okay. I've just I've let lots of people know about Go Firefighter. It's an app that you can get from FireWeb and other places. But it has the most recent maps and situation report of your fires on there. So you can actually look up your area and find that QR code and the most recent map of the fires you're going to and a sit rep. So that is a really useful one. And look, if you've got questions at any time, flick them to Adam. I'm sure he'll answer them. If not, flick them to me. I'll see what I can do. But there's a lot of useful stuff out there.
Yeah, I have a question in regards to trucks and so forth. Do you see computers or tablets being fixed to tanks and so forth, so you can actually see all this information on FireGround, see other trucks not moving around the FireGround, all that sort of thing, as this technology progresses?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think that's where both organisations want to get to. There's a few challenges along the way to do that, and just, I think there's, I suppose with an announcement from the chief over those 300 training tablets, there's opportunities there to use those for more than just training. So, I know there's some discussions being had to see how, all this stuff that's coming can be leveraged into appliances. And it'll probably start with, FCVs and command type vehicles and progress their way down to trucks. Because at the end of the day, we still need firefighters to put fires out. One of the biggest risks I see is we give everyone heaps of data on their phones, and everyone's looking at their phones and not standing there looking at what the fire's doing. And so we've got to find the right balance. And, there's an opportunity to get more information out to the line. It's just how we do that, I suppose, in a way that it's accessible. So we know, the CFA is quite a diverse organisation. So as far as fire management, Vic, just because we have a paid workforce, our workforce is very similar demographic to CFA in the field. So, we have to cater for a whole range of, I suppose, different skills and capabilities and willingness to change. So we need a multi I suppose, faceted approach. We can't just say, we're going to turn everything into an app, because when they all stop working, which inevitably they will, we need to have, redundancy. So we'll still have radios, we'll still have paper logbooks, we'll still have a map book, but, we may have a digital platform, hopefully in the near future, that allows us to, use that more often than we use the map book, or, allows us to provide better information and, put our sit reps and, kind of detail over the device and not over the radio. So, that I think we'll find a balance. It'll take a little bit longer. I think technology is coming down in price, so it will happen. It's just, I think there's some huge opportunities for CFA in the next couple of years to, kind of work out where they need to go in this space and start rolling that out without some of the previous impediments they've had to do it. So, I think there's a lot of opportunities in the very near future in this space.
And it's something that we hear year in and year out at aircraft pre-season briefings, Adam, about you get that brilliant photo of an aircraft dropping a load or doing things, but where are you in relation to it? So as much as technology in the FireGround is good, sometimes you lose some of your awareness when you are looking at technology on the FireGround.
Yeah. And Chris, I agree. As I work in radio comms, my biggest issue at the moment is USB 12-volt cigarette lighter chargers in vehicles that are messed with radios. So whatever we do in this space does have to be coordinated with our radio interference across vehicles. So it is a big piece of work. So just being able to go and buy, a few iPads or Android devices off the shelf and roll them out it's actually more complicated than that. Fully agree. That's it's a huge safety risk to both organisations, the kind of deployment of unauthorised technology into vehicles, just because of the risk to knocking out your radio is huge. So, anyone else got any questions? Cool.
Cool. Well, thanks very much again, Adam, for your time tonight and for your session. I totally suggest people go in and check out what is available, what you can access. it's really useful. Share it amongst your brigades, because I know that I've taught things to guys in my brigade that I use all the time in an IMT, and we found it very useful this year when fires were coming in around Bairnsdale, that we could actually keep track of what was happening. We would put up the most recent maps and could actually see things happening live, which was a really useful tool to have. Literally, I just had my computer set up on the screen and people could walk in and see what was happening during the day. So I was lucky I wasn't actually working that day, and that I do have access and knowledge from my job. So go, Adam.
What I'll do is I'll put some links up to how to register on the Facebook group, so that they're there, so you can share them. So I'll put something together tomorrow, and I'll just drop it up there as to go to here, and these are the steps to register. I've got a question in with our support team at Forest Fire Management about how automated the onboarding of members' accounts are, but they didn't get back to me by close of business. So once I know the exact process, I'll tell you how easy or hard it is. But from memory, it's pretty easy. It's just I haven't done it for a while, so I just wanted to confirm it. But pretty much you just type in your email address and hit register, and away you go. It sends you an email, and it gives you base level access pretty much straight away, no questions asked, which gets you to everything you need to get to.
That will be great. Thank you very much, Adam. I'll let you know in the next couple of days who we've got next week. I have a feeling I do have it in the roster, but I'll have to double check and look it up. We do have HVP coming up. I'll try and get Kevin Parkin from the BOM. I'm sure Kevin, we might wait a bit until a bit later on, but I'm sure knowing Kevin, and Adam knows Kevin as well, I'm sure Kevin would be happy to jump on board with us. And so, yeah, we've got quite a few people lined up, so it will be good. Thank you once again, and have a safe week.